Hey, how y'all doing? It's Craig here again. Just going to do a short video. Don't know really how long it's going to take. We're going to start disassembling this 575 that I found in my friend's junk pile. Paid him $15 for it. Missing a few parts. Going to have to buy a few parts for it. Crank bearings are bad in it, at least the PTO side. Going to try not to put too much money into this saw like I did another one. I'll replace the parts that are missing off of it. Try to buy them as cheap as I can, possibly offline, used. Going to tear it down, inspect the inside of the cylinder, the piston, replace the ring if necessary. If the ring's still good, I'll reuse the original ring that come out of it. Replace the crank bearings, seals, and probably go right on ahead and replace the fuel lines, all the rubber components except for the intake manifold. I'll inspect it. If it's good, I'll reuse the intake manifold. But other than that, I'm going to do a video of this. I'll edit it as I go along. Sorry about that, probably just cut my head off. I'll edit this, get it down to a manageable time frame, and just do an overview of the teardown and see what we can find inside of it. See if it's actually worth doing anything with. So here we go. Readjust the camera here. Had to get my eyes on so I could see. Sorry about the movement, the shakiness. But here it is. Done a video on this here about a week ago. It is a Husqvarna. It's a 2004 model Husqvarna 575 XP. As I said, I purchased this from my buddy out of his junk pile for $15. Almost fell out of my shoes when he told me what he wanted for it. Of course, it'll get excuse me, it'll get a new air filter. Should have been a little more organized here. Sorry for that, but I just got off of midnights. I was working midnights all last week. It is quite cold today. Outside it's probably about 30 degrees. A little bit colder than what I'd like for it to be when I'm down here working, but I want to get this tore apart, get it all cleaned up so I can get it back together. Hopefully by about March or April. Oh, that one's a little tight. Get me a bigger Phillips screwdriver here. I don't know if that's been cross-threaded, but it's definitely tighter than what it should be. Well, I'm going to spin the clutch off here. Let me grab my impact wrench. I'm going to pause you here for just a second. Okay, we're back. I'm going to spin this clutch off. Just remember, these are left-hand threads. So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey does not apply. You want to spin it to the right or clockwise to get these clutches off. Looks like it's missing the worm drive gear for the oil pump also. So he's actually had this clutch off. Probably when he figured out the bearings were bad in it. This carburetor, it's got a long tap there, both of them go through the carburetor. And it's got a rubber mount right there and a rubber isolation mount right there that you got to get popped off. Take them out of there. Get this throttle cable undone. Just unwrap it there. Pull it back out of the side. We'll leave the choke, or not the choke, but the throttle linkage all hooked up there. See if I can't get these undone without breaking them. Usually when they're old. No, that there's got a lot of oil on it, so it's really pliable. There's that one. There's that one. Don't forget to unhook your kill wire. This is the ground for the kill wire. Just unplug it. And here's the wire that goes down to the coil to complete the circuit. The fuel line's already unhooked. Otherwise, you'd have to unhook the fuel line right there. We should just be able to lift that right up and off there. Here's the part of the intake boot. This is for the extra air. This is the intake, goes right into the cylinder. These carburetors, kind of like a 2-barrel. I don't know if you can see down in here if you've, let me get my light here. See how it's kind of got like there's a barrel right up there and then a barrel down on the bottom. And as you increase your throttle, there's a butterfly in behind the choke butterfly there. I don't know if you can see that down in there very good. But as you get probably about a third of the throttle, that bottom butterfly opens up and allows more air to go in. From this point, now let's take this little ring out and see if we can't get that off there. This is just your mounting support. Pulse tube, don't forget it. There it come out. Pulse tube's right here on the bottom. Now for the intake manifold, there's 3 bolts. One way down in there that's hard to get to unless if you got a ball on the end of your Allen wrench. But I should be able to get this cylinder up and off there with just what I have taken off. I'll break these loose with my T-handle here. You can't read this, but this is a 5/32 SAE. It is not metric. That one's actually slipping. There it went. I don't know if I can get on that one or not. Nope. I'll have to do these by hand. I really don't like to do what you would call a true bolt by bolt, nut by nut video. I'm not going to do this whole video as far as a complete teardown, but I thought you guys all might be interested in seeing the initial teardown with the cylinder coming off, just to see what it looks like. Like I said, the PTO side crank bearing is bad, so it's got to be torn apart. Otherwise, if the bearings was good, I would probably just try to put the parts on it and run it. But here we go. Here is the cylinder coming off. Well, good signs there. Rings are not stuck. Very, very minimal wear on the intake side. Lots of oil on that piston. Again, here's the exhaust side of the piston. Hope that shows up really good. Very minimal wear, what I would call normal wear on the exhaust side. There's the intake side. Very minimal wear on the intake side. Has had a little blow by on the rings there. Coming down onto the piston. I'll get them rings off there and get them inside the cylinder. Check the end gap on them. They could just be wore out. Now they're going to stay in there. This cylinder does have a base gasket on it. Does not look like it was leaking. Looks like it had a good seal. Hope y'all can see the inside of that cylinder. Now that little black mark there doesn't look near as bad on video as what it is as I'm looking at it, but I'm sure that's just some oil. No, that is just a little bit of wear, but you can still see the cross hatching in this cylinder. No scores, just a little bit of wear. Got some carbon up in top there, up in the combustion chamber. Intake looks really clean. Got quite a bit of carbon built up there in the exhaust chamber. That'll all clean up. This is an OEM cylinder, or I take it to be an OEM cylinder. Yeah, it's a Mala. Can't read the part number there, but it does say Mala right here. It says Mala. So if it is an aftermarket, it is a quality aftermarket piece. Does have the stuffers in the crankcase, metal caps on the end of the crankshaft. Even looking at the base where the cylinder bolts to the base of the crankcases, or the mounting flange of the crankcase, looks like it had a real good seal on it. You can actually see right in this area some of the imprint of some writing that was on the gasket. Actually clear across there, you can see some imprint. No up and down movement, piston or rod, crank pin or wrist pin. There is no axial movement on the wrist pin or the crank. There is some side-to-side lateral movement, which is actually obvious because there's distance between each side of the large end of the rod on the crank. So you're going to have some float there, and you're going to have some float in the wrist pin. Minimal, but you'll have a little bit. But there's no axial movement that would make me believe that the crank pin bearings are wore out. So it looks to me like this is just going to be split the cases, clean it up real good, put new bearings and seals in it, put her back together with probably some new rings. I'm not sure. Like I said, we'll just do that right now. Let me pause it and I'll get a ring off and get it set up. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Got the ring off the piston, cleaned it up a little bit. I'm going to set it back down into the cylinder here. I got a 1 7/16 socket out of my 3/4 inch drive socket set. Just going to use that to kind of square it up a little bit. There's the gap. Gaps right here on the top at the exhaust intake. I'm going to push that on down to where that's actually, sorry about that, where that's actually contacting the cylinder wall. So it's not in the opening of the intake. There you go. It's basically just about where it would be, like in between the 12 and the 1 if you was looking at the clock. There, you can see it right there. That's a pretty sizable gap. I don't know what it is, but this is my sterret. Filler gauges. Start off with a 24 thousandths there. 24 thousandths will not fit in it. Yet will too. 24 thousandths falls right in it. So that's, I'm going to have to start adding a few together here. Let's put 11 on it. Make it 35. See what we get then. There, 35. 35 goes into it also, but it's really tight. So I would say probably about 32, 33 thousandths of an inch gap on this ring. I'm going to have to get in the service manual, see what the gap's supposed to be, but I can tell you right now, 30 plus thousandths ring in gap, even on a chainsaw, is extreme. Even though it had good compression, I don't like that big of a gap. I'm going to say probably somewhere down around 10 thousandths of an inch is probably what the spec's going to be on this, maybe a little tighter. So like I said, I'll get it in the service manual, find out what it is, but right now, looks like we're going to have crank bearings, seals, a ring, or actually rings. I believe I will do a base gasket delete build on this saw. I won't do much port work on it. I'll just get in there and just clean it up a little bit, especially on the exhaust side. And then I'll gasket match the muffler to the exhaust port opening, cut the gasket open so it's all nice and even flow through there. The intake axle looks really good. There's no restriction in the intake. Let me get my light again. It's a nice flow, clear down through there. Nothing restricting the intake. So I won't do nothing to the intake. I see a little lip. Well, that's the ring down in there. No, it isn't either. There's a little lip right at the exit of the intake port into the cylinder. I'll get in there and I'll just buff that off there a little bit. Top and bottom, both sides. I'll get some roll discs. Get up in them transfers as far as I can. That's a little rough up in there. Just clean them up. I'm not going to open them up any, but I will clean them up. Clean up the inside of the cylinder. Okay. I just kind of thought you all like to probably see the initial teardown of this Husqvarna 575 XP. I'm going to call it a junk pile find, because literally it was in his junk pile when I found it. So okay, hope you enjoyed. See you in the next video.